start. Welcome everyone. My name is Danette Fenton Menzies and I'm the Director of Learning at Magical Learning. Today we're going to be looking at how do you boost your energy and resilience. Now, if this is the first time you've used a Zoom webinar, if you can hover, so for me it's at the top of my screen, there's a box that shows you that there's video, etc. But there's right over towards the right hand side, it says more, and that's where there's a chat box. So feel free at any time to put something in the chat box. I can also, if you've got a mic on, I can also unmute you and you can talk if you want. So if you would like that, just put in the chat. And I'm happy to unmute you as well. This will be recorded and you will get a copy of this recording as well. But I encourage you to interact today because that's the best fun when we're running webinars. And we run one each month, always free. We just like to share what we know with other people. So thank you everyone for turning up today, and welcome Zoe. I just see you've come on as well. So let's start with what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at what is the true meaning of resilience. Got a bit of a croaky throat. And also, why is resilience so important for all of us? How do you boost your energy? And your energy and your resilience relate well to each other. And then 4 really simple tactics you can use that will help boost your resilience and also your energy. Now, if you've not been on a webinar before with us, one of the things I love is beautiful quotes. So this one I find really lovely. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. And this is Carl Jung. And I just think it's a lovely way of saying that, yes, bad things might happen to you during your life, and it's probably, you know, it is going to happen to you at some stage in your life. If we work on our resilience, we work on our energy, it can help us have a more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. And we'll go through that a little bit later on as well. Now, I'm really interested why you're all on the webinar today. So I would love for you to put in the chat box what you are hoping to get out of today. And I know a number of you have actually managed to find the chat box already. So I'd love to hear just in the chat box what it is that you are hoping to get out of today's webinar. Because I love to tailor it to whoever's on the actual call too. And while you're typing, have to share some awesome news. This morning, my husband and I became grandparents for the first time. So our second daughter, Olivia, had a little baby girl called Mila Victoria, and she was born at 1:16 a.m. in Canberra today. Yes, thank you, David. Very exciting. And that's a really good reason to work on your resilience and energies. You know, when you've got family, the more we look after ourselves, the more we can serve and look after others as well. So that was my exciting thing for the day. All right, looks like no one's got any specific requirements for today. Feel free to use the chat box as we go if you think of something as well. In terms of what is resilience, oh, thank you, Isabel. Manage the do more with less approach. Yes, that absolutely pretty much every workplace has now. And I love it that you've nailed it there, that making sure that you can take care of yourself. Because really, this definition here, the ability to bounce back from difficulties is how I talk about resilience. And the ability to look after yourself first impacts on your ability to then be able to turn up and be awesome in the workplace. So from our perspective, self-care is a critical factor in building your resilience and also helping you with your energy. So I love it because that will help you do more with less. And I'll come back to that a little bit later on. So thank you for sharing, Isabel. But really, at any time in your life, there'll be times where you've got lots of energy, people say things to you and you flex, so your boundaries flex. And then as your resilience drops, what you'll find is people say things to you and you go, oh, and you'll react rather than respond. And we're going to talk about why that is. So this skill of building your resilience actually comes to having a great life as well. Thank you, David, as well. So David talks about having previously run a small business, working full-time, supporting 2 states, wow, and twin 4-year-olds, ouch. Looking for any edge, yes, that will help you with all of this. Excellent. Well, you're going to love, I reckon all of you will love what we talk about today, because it really is about looking after you. And by doing that, you can bring more of you to the world, the better part of you. So why is it important? Well, absolutely, you bring, by building your resilience, you have a better ability to achieve what you want in life. Your life will tend to be more smoother. And by that, you don't go lots of highs, lots of lows, so it never feels like it's calm. And obviously, there are times when we have bad things happen, and that will impact our resilience. However, if you've worked on your resilience prior to that, you'll tend to bounce back up a bit faster. The other thing is, from my perspective, what I tend to see is when we work on our resilience, we also bring more energy to those around us, and to ourselves. And life just is a bit easier. And I'm going to talk on the next slide about how we know our resilience is dropping. And one of the things I would say is, with better awareness, you can make better choices, and with better choices, you make better results, or you get better results. Now, that's a quote from my coach, Robin Sharma. And I really like it, because when you become aware, what do you look like when you're fully resilient versus what do you look like, sound like, feel like when your resilience is dropping? If you notice your resilience is dropping, you can start to make better choices sooner, which means you don't drop right down to the bottom, that you can bring yourself back up to being more resilient and having that ability to be more flexible, more energetic. So here's some indicators that perhaps your resilience might be dropping. And I'll just put the pictures up first, because you may relate to some of these. We tend to, when our resilience is dropping, tend to feel much lower energy. But one of the things all of my coaching clients say when I basically say, how are you going? Like, pretty good indicator their resilience is low is they'll say, Danette, everybody is, pardon my language, pissing me off. And they'll say, I want to throw my phone, want to turf my computer, want to find a deserted island or a cave, and I just want to hide away for a while. Now, what they're telling me and what their body is telling me is that they've been really generous to everyone else, because what happens as our resilience drops is we take away from our self-care and we become really generous with others. And so what happens is eventually your body goes, no, enough, you need to look after you first. And you'll notice that because you start getting a bit narky around other people, that they will start to, pardon my language, piss you off. And you literally will just want to go away and hide from people. And it's not that you are weak. It literally is you've been so generous with everyone else. However, you've forgotten about yourself. And our body is really wise. Now, if we don't listen to it, it gets worse and worse. And eventually you'll wake up one day and you just will go, I don't want to get out of bed. Now, sometimes this could also be a chemical imbalance. And so if this stays with you for a reasonable period of time, absolutely go see your doctor, because they may need to help you through that. But if it's something that you just notice people are starting to annoy me, have a look at how much you're looking after yourself. And usually you'll get a bit, when I ask this question, people say to me, I don't remember the last time. And I'm like, okay, clearly you haven't looked after yourself for a while. And it literally is because we are so generous to others. But first, we need to be generous with ourselves. So for those of you who've been on a plane, I say that self-care is like the oxygen they talk about when they do the oxygen demonstration. So they say when the oxygen mask drops, we're supposed to put it on ourselves, which is when we're feeling a bit, we need to look after ourselves first. What we do as our resilience drops, however, is instead of putting it on ourselves, we do this. I'll just share it with this person and this person and this person. And then eventually you just find, no, I just want to look after myself. I just want to hide. So please try not to get to there. Take the time to, as much as possible, even just 10 minutes every day, to look after yourself is enough to give you the fuel to feel better. Now, obviously, if you're feeling a bit low, the more you can do of that, the better. And we'll talk about some strategies shortly. I won't ask you to put your hand up around this one, but know that if this is you or perhaps a work colleague, it's just that they need to look after themselves. And so see beyond the behaviours that are being demonstrated to help them recognise that they need a little bit of time for themselves. And we will all go through this during our lives. Now, some simple things you can do to boost your energy, and then I'll go into 4 tactics. But any comments you've got, please feel free to share as well. So fuel, and by fuel I mean the food we put in our body and also the water or the drinks that we have as well. So high quality fuel is what we need, because if you think of it, you create everything in your life. You are a bit like the Ferrari in your life. So the more you look after what you eat, what you drink, and put, good whole foods, lots of water to stay hydrated, that allows your body to run better. My favourite thing to drink is water. And normally I have a glass, but I just grab this bottle. And that I've found over the years, I don't get, I'm fully hydrated all the time. As a presenter, I find as the moment my lips are a little bit dry, that tells me I'm needing water. And I try not to get to that stage. I try to drink lots and lots of water, which helps me in terms of my health. I also, as much as possible, try to eat good whole foods, knowing that the moment I have something that has sugar in it, for argument's sake, that's actually going to move me to the fight or flight part of my brain, so the survival mechanism, and it equally keeps us there longer. One of the things that scientists now know is that the countries that have the highest sugar consumption also have the highest depression rates, and they think it's because it keeps the brain in the survival mechanism rather than where the blood flow normally should be, which is the thinking part of the brain or the cortex. So if you're feeling a bit low, your body will want to reach for sugar. The thing is, the more you can pick up natural sugar such as fruit, etc., the better you'll feel, and the better your blood sugar will be too. Self-care, and we're going to come back to self-care very shortly. Sleep is another energy booster. I bet some of you have had nights where you haven't got enough sleep, and in the morning you've woken up, and I bet this is you, David, with 2 twins, with the twins, is that you wake up and your brain's like, oh. And that's really your brain saying you haven't had enough sleep. One of the things that sleep does, which we've recently found out through science, is that when you get into deep sleep, the neurons in your brain actually shrink to 60% of their size. And when they shrink, a fluid is released by your brain that actually clears the toxins out. So when you've had a good night's sleep, you wake up and you're like, oh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. But if you don't, you'll wake up and you're a bit, and a bit foggy-brained. And really what your foggy brain is saying is that, in fact, you haven't had enough sleep. So some of those toxins are still floating around. And I was reading a really interesting article a couple of days ago where it said that as we start to recognise how important sleep is in terms of our functioning, including our brain functioning, if we all get good night's sleep on a regular basis, they suspect that diseases such as Alzheimer's will actually disappear. Because one of the things they're starting to make the connection with is the fact that when we don't get those good night's sleeps on a regular basis, that can lead to brain disease as well, including, they think, Alzheimer's. So it's a really good reason to get a good night's sleep. And I just love sleep anyway, it's the best thing. Now, breaks is also important. So you can't see all of my desk, but at the moment I'm actually standing up rather than sitting down. I have a treadmill desk, which is a really good way of getting your exercise during the day and boosting your energy. One of the things it makes me do, because I'm standing up, is I tend to want to get up and move more rather than just stand. So I will take regular breaks, and that helps boost your energy as well. And feel free to share in the chat box while I'm going through these some of the things you do to boost your energy too, because I'm really actually quite curious, because we all have different strategies. Exercise is absolutely important. When you sweat, here's another reason why exercise is so beautiful. When you sweat, your brain releases a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And what that does is it actually grows your brain cells. So it is a fabulous way of not only getting your energy right now, but actually improving your brain's functioning over time, which I really love. So highly encourage exercise. Even if it's just you get up from your desk, walk briskly to the kitchen, for argument's sake, or walk briskly to the toilet or around the floor to just get that boost in energy. And particularly in the afternoon, if you get the 3 o'clock slump, really good idea just to get up and do a brisk bit of walking, and that'll get that energy moving in you as well. A couple of other things we can do is reduce stress. And I'm going to give you a nice strategy on that in a second. And also, so important for us, connect to others. So we know that when we connect, it's a fundamental need of all of us. And by connection, this is a nice connection because you can at least see me. I can't see you, however, I can see your names. But one of the things connection does is it makes us feel safe, and that reduces our stress and is likely to give us lots of energy. So connecting with people who matter to you, who you care about, is really, really important. Some other ones I wrote here as I was coming across, and again, I'd encourage you to share yours. Getting out in nature. We now know that if you go near trees, trees emit a pheromone that makes you feel good. So the old advice, go hug a tree, and you can do that if you want, but you don't have to. Just sitting under a tree is enough for us to get that feel-good chemicals which make us feel better. Doing things such as gratitude. You cannot be negative and grateful at the same time. So if you find your brain going to the more negative side, which it will do when our resilience is dropping, because naturally we think about 64% of our thoughts are negative, because back in cave people days, we were always on the outlook for, is there threats out there? So if we move to gratitude and we feel that gratitude, it actually shifts us away from negative, which is great. Doing things like kindness, hanging with positive people is always good, doing what you love as much as you can, and really important, taking time out to do meditation as much as possible, and we'll talk about that in a second, but also, so important, fun and laughter. That's a beautiful way to boost your energy. It's very difficult to laugh and not get more energy, because what laughter does is put serotonin and dopamine, which are the feel-good chemicals, into our bloodstream. They make us feel beautiful. So laughter is really a great sign of a resilient person and also a resilient team. What you tend to see is if a team's not so resilient, they'll tend to get a bit annoyed with the team next to them if they're laughing lots. And it just says we need more self-care in the team that isn't as resilient. Winston Churchill said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And this is what we do as we build our resilience. My first tactic for how do we do great resilience and get ourselves more energy is self-care. So we talked on the 2 slides back about things such as exercise. Critical part of your self-care, particularly now we know what it does in terms of blood flow, and it obviously helps grow our brain. Sleep, absolutely definitely important. And in fact, there is a fabulous TED talk, which is Sleep is Your Superpower. And I would highly encourage you to watch that. It's only a very recent one. And it talks about how important sleep is. By the way, if, like David, you've got little ones who maybe don't sleep as much as they could, or maybe you find yourself you're not getting enough sleep, naps are a nice way to catch up on some sleep. A great hack, if you want, in terms of naps, is first of all to have a cup of coffee for a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, but particularly coffee, have it and then put your head down, and what you'll find is in about 25 minutes you'll naturally wake up as the caffeine goes through your bloodstream. So it's a good way of getting that nap, but also then waking up without an alarm. Otherwise, use an alarm. Otherwise, you might find you're asleep for quite some time. Hydration, absolutely important. One of the things I spoke briefly about before is meditation, and I'm going to come to that in a couple of slides, because meditation is a way of calming ourselves. If you like baths, if you like showers, anything that you can do for you that just lights you up a bit. So I used to love when my kids were really little, I'd book a date in for myself, and I would just take myself off to do something that was just for me. So I might go to a movie, I might go to an art gallery. One time I went swimming in Canberra at the zoo. They used to have these a great big aquarium where you could actually go swimming. They had sort of sharks that weren't deadly type sharks. So I did that, and that was a beautiful self-care. So I'm interested, what sort of self-care things do you know would help you in terms of building your energy and building your resilience? So I encourage you in the chat box to absolutely put some of the things that you do that allow you to feel better. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to say why this is actually really important. So the more self-care we do, the more we become generally calm. And when we become calm, we tend to become more assertive rather than aggressive or passive, for argument's sake. So it makes us a better leader. It makes us a better team member. Calm comes through self-care. As you take that self-care away, you'll become more reactive. So I love this, David. Yes, meditate and exercise. Problem is consistency. Yep, slides off after a couple of days. When my kids were growing up and we had 5, I used to get up at 5 o'clock and do all of my self-care before the kids woke up because they were not out of bed before 7. And even though I felt tired after that, actually helped me feel much, much better. I love it, Isabel. Oh, and my kids would love this as well. My kids love animals. So going to the dog park with the dogs, our kids go without the dogs and they watch other dogs, and your morning coffee routine, how beautiful, beautiful way to start the day. Allegra here's got taking an hour in the morning to read my book. All of those are beautiful ways of fueling yourself so that you are then ready to come out to the world, be awesome, and also share those, that your awesomeness with others. So self-care allows us to remain much calmer, which allows us to be more assertive rather than reactive in the workplace and at home. So self-care, a friend of mine, Dr. James Rouse, talks about it as a business decision, because when we do that, we bring our best self to the world. Now I've got a question for all of you. Study has found a simple way that can increase your focus and attention, also increase your creativity and your sense of health and well-being. Got a question, would you be willing to try it? And there are no side effects to this particular thing that helps you get these advantages. Yes, excellent, thanks David. And it, by the way, is not a drug, can I say? Beautiful, excellent. Lots of yeps, excellent. Let me tell you what it is. So there was a study done back in 2007 by Harvard Business Review and the Energy Project. And they found that if you work for 90 minutes and then take a 20-minute break, or you could shrink this and work for 45 and then do a 10-minute break, your attention and focus will go up by 30%, your creativity will go up by 48%, and your health and well-being will go up by 46%. They're astonishing results. If that was a drug, people would pay for that drug. And people go, it can't be that simple. It is that simple, because we're working then with our brain to actually turn up and be our best version of ourselves. Our brain frequently needs breaks just to clear out the clutter, to file stuff, to then be able to come forward for the next time and be able to go, yep, I'm fully on fire, I'm ready to go. It's a really simple thing. And technology tends to interfere. So I tend to use an actual alarm clock that it doesn't even tick, it just tells me what time it is. So something like that can take you away from technology, which is a really good thing as well. So just regular breaks, that includes not doing al desco. And al desco is where people eat their lunch at their desk. It is much better, and you will be far more effective in the afternoon and far more energetic if you actually get up and have a break. Thank you for being honest, David. David just said he's guilty. I'm sure we've all been guilty at some stage. Now you know why it is so important to get up and go for a walk. The other thing I'd say is, when was the last time when you kept working and working and working that you got a brilliant idea? Highly likely that it was never, because we know that flow happens when you take breaks. It's when you're walking, it's when you're exercising, you're standing in the shower. All of those access a different brainwave, which allows us to be so much more creative and innovative. That's why those breaks are so important. Another really simple one is if you're sitting at your desk and you just need to feel a bit more energetic, is to breathe. And this is a beautiful technique. There's two I'll teach. So this one is you breathe deeply through your nose for 4, and then you hold that for 7, and then you exhale for 8. And if you do that 4 times, you'll notice your energy goes through the roof. And this is why meditation is beautiful, because what the breathing is doing is introducing more oxygen into our bloodstream, which makes us feel more energetic. One I learned off Tony Robbins was to breathe like this. So 3 quick ones in and then and if you do that 4 times, again, you'll get really energetic. So that's a beautiful way of just feeling better simply through breathing. Because what we do when we get a bit stressed is we either hold our breath or we breathe shallowly. And we'll breathe in a way that we don't even notice. But what you'll notice is you'll start to feel sluggish or tired. And really your body's saying, come back to your belly and breathe really nice and deeply. And that's why exercise is so good, because it forces you to breathe deeply as you move, which is why I love it. And I would highly encourage you to take up meditation, even if it's just for a minute or 2, because part of it is that deep breathing and just catching the thoughts that maybe don't empower you as well. Every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. You know, every day you are a new person. And it's beautiful. Oh, I love this. So David's just shared on the flow state that he actually just watched a TEDx video on knitting as a flow activity. Absolutely, because you're just in the zone and then all of a sudden. So thank you for sharing that link, David. That's beautiful. So for those of you who can see the chat box, David's beautifully shared that. And we will send that link out with the recording of this video as well. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, another tactic that is really helpful is focus. So what we know about the brain is when you multitask, you're not actually multitasking, you're shifting focus in your brain. And every time you do that, you use lots of energy. So for example, our brain is 2% of our body's mass, but we already know it uses 20% of the energy in our brain, and that's measured through blood flow. So every time you shift focus, you are shifting that blood flow, which means you are using more energy. Now that makes you tired as the evening comes on, unless you do things like exercise, etc., and having naps. So we now know that if you focus on one thing, particularly the thing that is most important for you to achieve, and you just sit there with that, and maybe you spend either the 45 minutes and then get up for 10 or the 90 minutes and get up for 20, you will achieve far more in that time than trying to switch and do multiple tasks. Even, I've got my phone here, so I'm going to demonstrate this. You'll notice people who are on their phone and they're walking, they think they're walking like this. They think they're walking straight ahead, but what they're actually doing is walking like this. And you'll often see them look at other people going, why are you in my road? And what they don't realise is they're actually doing neither the walking or the texting effectively. Now, what is more scary is when I see people doing that when they're driving, particularly truck drivers. So yesterday we were driving back from the Blue Mountains, and beside us a truck was sort of driving a bit weirdly, and as we got up to the thing, the guy was on his phone while he's trying to drive. I'm like, oh, that's a recipe for disaster. So some of the other things is to focus on what matters to you. This is where part of a great life is actually working out what's important for you. For example, most people, their lives are driven by what is urgent. So for example, they could be having a really nice conversation with, say, a team member or a loved one, and then all of a sudden, say the phone buzzes or their email blips or the phone rings and they get distracted. And they wonder why, if this happens many times a day, that they're exhausted at the end of the day. When we learn to identify what is really important and then focus on that, we get through more work and we actually feel better at the end of the day. I bet there's been times when you've gone home and you've been tired, exhausted, And that's because you've been jumping between tasks. And then other days you go home and you go, you know what, that was an awesome day. I nailed that, because you've been able to stay on task on the really important things. My coach encourages our business mastermind to work 5 great hours where we completely focus on just what is important. And this is why I have this beautiful alarm clock, because this is, instead of looking at my phone to check how am I going, I can just look at this and keep my phone far away. Now, once I do that, that allows me to produce much better work. I would also say work with your body clock in terms of focus. My body clock loves 4 a.m. to about 8:30 a.m. So if I'm writing a course, that's when I do it. You will have your own body clock. So there'll be a certain time when you just know your body fires up beautifully. Use that time to do the really important work, because you'll be able to concentrate much, much better. Still remember to get up and move around and have those breaks. So I would say one of the things we need to do to focus better and make sure that we get that self-care is to learn to say no. And as your resilience drops, you're going to say yes to everyone else and no to yourself. You need to say no so you can serve them better later on. The other thing is maybe start a stop doing list. So one of the things I love about this concept is we have to-do lists, which often we madly go through and tick things off. But sometimes some of those things probably we shouldn't be doing. So it's worth it every 6 months or so to actually just look at, what can I stop doing? That gives you time to do the self-care and the other things we've talked about to improve your resilience. At the end of the day, that focus on what is important will really help you to, and number one in importance is you. And that includes your self-care. So when you do that, you'll find that you are able to bring more energy to everything in your life. And this is why things such as holidays are also important. We plan our year a year out generally, so all of our holidays are booked in to make sure that we continuously have that energy to be able to serve. What do you do in terms of focus? So do you have particular strategies around focus that help you? So please, in the chat box, I'd love to know if you've got any strategies. I'm just going to have my hydration. Let's see. So I'm curious now. Oh, I love it. Thank you. So David talks about using his Outlook better. Isabel, change my business Skype to unavailable. I love it. Because there's times where you just need to concentrate on what's going on, and I bet that would interrupt if you don't put unavailable. It's a great strategy, both of them. Thank you. I'm curious, what are you going to do to boost your energy and resilience moving forward? Oh, I love that too, Isabel. Learning to ask, is it urgent if people do interrupt? Yes. And sometimes their urgency shouldn't push you as well. Ah, excellent. Another great suggestion from David, which is Smart Work, which is a book by Dermot Crowley. I've actually met Dermot, and he's a very clever man. And he's about how you focus more on important versus the whole urgency. So knowing your importance allows you to say no to stuff that might be urgent, but it actually isn't important. It's just an interruption. Beautiful. So what are the things that you're going to do to boost your energy and resilience, other than the ones that have already been suggested? My big thing is we've just come off the back of 3-day, well, it was a 2-day retreat plus getting up there to the Blue Mountains to run that. So over the next day or two, I'm going to spend some time in nature just to fill my energy back up and build my resilience up as well. And lots of sleep, which is what I love. If ever I feel a bit new, I always go and hop in bed, have a nap, feel much better afterwards. Naps are the best. I would encourage you to think about what are the simple things you can do to be able to build your energy and resilience. Lovely, Isabel, the time split, booking in more work from home days. Yes, it's amazing how much more we get done when we work from home. Zoe, I love it that you've been engaged in mindfulness for the past 6 weeks. I would imagine that is a beautiful way to get those negative thoughts back into this is what I need to get done. I love it. And I love Isabel. It's beautiful. You know, there are times where we just need to not have to put on a corporate mask or whatever, and just be ourselves and relax and do the work and get through things and just go, And once you finish something, another beautiful thing that gives all of us energy, and you're going to laugh at me because I do this all the time, but once you've finished a task, don't jump straight into the next one. What you need to do is celebrate the fact that you've done it. And there's really good science behind this. So what I tend to do, pardon my dagginess, is I do a party dance. And when I do a party dance, what happens is serotonin and dopamine go through my bloodstream, which means I feel better. It also encourages us to want to do the next task. Now, remember, if you've done something that's big, take a little bit of time to acknowledge that rather than just jumping straight into the next one. Because if you do jump straight into the next one without celebrating, over time your energy will drop and you'll feel less enthusiastic about doing things. Even knowing your body. So if you start to really procrastinate, it could be that you haven't celebrated, you just need a quick break. It could also be that it's a bit like the elephant. The task is too big. Sometimes we need to chunk it down so that we can eat that little elephant one bite at a time. And that can help boost our energy and resilience as well. But making sure, as much as possible, doing things that you've already suggested, spending less time on social media and a little bit more time just with yourself, with loved ones, being outside, doing exercise, doing that self-care, just helps our energy and resilience so much more. Now, is there any questions you've got before we finish up? Because I'll share with you what our topic is next month. I'm just interested if you've got any questions about what things we can help you with, because it's such a beautiful topic, this one, and one we all should do regularly. Oh, I like that, David. David's asked the question, is anyone else using a screen timer on their phones? I know a number of people who do that help, also on their computers. The reason I don't use it is my coach just literally said, this will stop you looking at other things. But there's no reason to not use a screen timer if that's useful. On your phones, the other thing that can help make your phones less attractive is using the grayscale in terms of the colour. It makes everything look not so attractive, and we tend not to use them enough then, or not as much, which allows us to go and do those other self-care things. It's a really good question. Does anyone else use screen timer? If you do, put it in the chat box. I'd love to know. Now, some of the other things is just some of our courses coming up. Oh, I love that. Isabel's been using the bedtime and the app time limits. That's beautiful. Excellent, especially for your social media apps. That's fabulous. I actually removed Facebook entirely off my phone, which has been really helpful because that stopped me looking at that. I have to actually log in on my computer, which I'm less likely to do. App time limits, that's the one. How long are you setting your daily limit for? There you go, Isabel. Usually an hour. Excellent. Oh, that's beautiful. I love the chat too that's happening. That's beautiful. One thing I would say is next month's, and you can extend it by 15 minutes. That's beautiful. One of the things, so next month, we are running how to increase your employee engagement. And that will be on Thursday, the 12th of September at 10 a.m. So it's usually at 10 a.m. all the time. Any suggestions you have, please feel free. This month, because our theme is energy and resilience, on our social medias we are sharing lots of resources around that. Certainly encourage you, if you've enjoyed this webinar, to share it with other people. You'll get a link, please feel free. We'll share those other resources that David shared as well. Plus we'll put those apps that you were talking about too, because that was wonderful. So can I say thank you? If there's no last questions, you get a couple of minutes early off, but go and look after yourself this month, because you are amazing. You are the Ferrari in your life, and therefore you deserve to invest in you first. Have a great month, and if we can help in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Bye everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. It's beautiful. Thank you. I love it. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.